Is this thing on? Yeah. Hi, everyone, and thank you for the introduction and for inviting me today to speak. I'm very humbled to be on this exceptional panel and, little old me. So thank you so much for having me. These fellow activists are champions of the socialist movement, and I'm proud to call myself a socialist as well. I come from Preston, and I'm a sitting councillor in the Lancashire County Council. And we form the official opposition to reform. It's a reform-led council. It's 53 out of 84 councillors, so you can understand and you can imagine how bleak that can be at times. And it's a daily struggle, honestly. I do believe, however, that in order to create change, we need to use the avenues of struggle. And an example of this is recently in Lancashire, was that reform threatened to close and privatise several care homes across Lancashire. Now, after raising our concerns and pushing back as much as we could, in our personal circles, in the council chamber as well, the official opposition, we call ourselves Progressive Lancashire, that I sit on, is a coalition of independent and green councillors. Now, we held a county-wide protest in Preston, designed to effectively empower and, not radicalise, but like gear up the workers within the care homes so then they can take the struggle on themselves. And it was to empower them and within these care homes so then they could stand up and fight for what they are fighting for. So we're effectively not doing it for them. We're empowering the working class from within. And since that kind of struggle, more and more of these care home workers have actually joined their unions as well. So it's been a strong movement in that sense. And they've been speaking out, and people who naturally wouldn't, they'd stay complacent and be a bit more on the sidelines, they've become empowered to speak about their struggles. And I just think it shows that there's a connection between all our struggles are linked, basically. And although they will not admit it, since that pressure and since the protests that we held and since the continuous calling out of this oppression and, threat to close all these care homes, Reform have backed down up until, there's a consultation period, but they have postponed it until the end of the summer. And they will not admit that it's the protests that have, created this pushback, but we know the truth. What we found is in the council chamber, it's very much performative and very dog whistle politics. It honestly feels like a waste of time sometimes, just fighting against people who have nothing real in terms of policies. It's all dog whistle politics, using performative motions like civic pride, flag motions to say that, we should have flags around the UK to show our civic pride, when in reality, they're not doing anything about the state of our roads, the state of our care homes, the state of our infrastructure that would actually empower civic pride. So I find it all very performative. And more recently, in one of the, our last council, full council, they put forward a motion about the family voting in Gorton and Denton. So, after the recent elections where, the Greens won, they felt that they needed to raise this within the Lancashire County Council, something completely separate to what our counties, instead of using their time in a productive way, they decided to go after this dog whistle politics and really show their racism and show their Islamophobia. And I use my time in council to stand up and say that, look, this is dog whistle politics. You're basically, singling out a minority community. You're saying that they are family voting, but in reality, it's all because it's the Islamophobia that you're inherently it's just blatant. There's not even an effort to kind of hide it anymore, which is quite worrying. But that's why, on the other side of it, we need to call it out and call it out for what it is. So one of my last points, basically, so myself and my fellow independent councillor, Michael Lavalette, we got together in Preston and we created a movement off the last general election, and we call ourselves oppressed and independents, but we aren't independent of, the socialist struggle. We're just independent of the main establishment parties. So we're entrenched in the Palestine movement, we're entrenched in the union movements and, all the different things. So I would encourage, one of the audience members came to me just before this talk and he said, I'd like you to touch on how we should go about in terms of our local communities and our, the elections that are coming up in May, how we go about who to vote for, because there are independents and there's Greens and there's Labour councillors who are anti-Zionist, but who do we put our faith in and who do we trust and who do we give our vote to? I would say, look at who is doing the work. Who is, they might say that they are affiliated to this, that, or whatever, but are they actually showing up on the Palestine demonstrations? Are they showing up on the picket lines? Are they supporting their unions? You've got to put your money where your mouth is, basically. That's my advice. So myself and Michael, we come from different traditions. He comes from a Marxist kind of background. And although I'm learning more about Marxism, through all of this as well, I'm a Muslim, first and foremost. And it's through my tradition that I believe in justice. I believe in, we need to look after our neighbours. We need to look after our communities. We have a duty of care to the people around us. And I'd just like to quote a hadith that really inspired me and put me on this journey, because every time that Michael asked me whether you wanted to run, I was like, no chance. So this is the hadith that I want to quote. So, whoever of you sees an evil, let him change it with his hand. And if he is not able to do so, then let him change it with his tongue. And if he is not able to do so, then with his heart. And that is the weakest of faith. So that just tells you that as Muslims and as people, we hating something in your heart is the weakest thing that you can do. We should be striving to change things with our hands and with our mouths and whatever avenues that have been given to us, and using every opportunity to really stand up and speak against injustice. I just wanted to end on one last thing, which I found quite funny, actually. The new slate of reform candidates actually has one candidate there's a few Muslims that are running under reform, which I find abhorrent. I can't get to grips with it myself. But there's one candidate called Muhammad Sharia. And I was talking to my cousin who I was staying with last night, and she goes, do we need to create some stickers that say vote for Sharia? Or should we do... Or is it equally effective saying vote for Muhammad? Which one should we go for? And so let's get it going, Counterfire. Let's do it. Thank you so much.